All right, before we go through and get into this exercise in the incident responder path for Let's Defend, I want to remind everybody that up until November 30th, 2023, you can use code BLCKFRDY, or Black Friday for short, on Let's Defend in order to get 50% off. So with that being said, we are going to take a look at and work through SOC108, Malicious Remote Access Software Detected, EventID 179, event type malware, for August 14th, 2023, 0832 local time. So it looks like we have Carlos downloading the file AA_v3.exe. Looks like it was allowed. L1 notes denote. In the mail received from support at Microsoft online support.cf, it is recommended to download AMI admin to the system to access the system. I cannot determine whether the relevant tool was downloaded to the system. Trigger reason, remote transfer tool detected. Okay, so for those who may not know, while I'm pulling up VirusTotal, AMI is in the same line as TeamViewer. So basically, to give someone remote access to a box. Obviously, if you don't know the person, not really something you should be doing. And so obviously, if we go take through, okay, 36 minutes ago, looks like somebody else might be doing the same exact thing. And you'll get a bunch of different takes on these particular ones. Riskware, remote admin. I mean, it is literally remote access tool. That's legitimate, but like with anything legitimate, with any tool, you can use it to tighten a screw, or you can turn around and use it to stab someone. Just like you could use a pocket knife to do the same exact thing. Assuming that you've got an attachment or the knife is thin or thick enough to be able to sit there and, turn the screw. But anyways. So yeah, potentially unwanted program. But I mean, you would look at this, and if you didn't interpret the detection results, you'd be like, oh, 44 out of 72. Okay, yeah, let's nuke and pave the workstation. Of course, the other aspect that comes to this too is what exactly are we looking at in terms of corporate policy in regards to remote admin support? Maybe the organization has bought TeamViewer, and that's on every single endpoint. Maybe they are strictly just RDP or dogs are playing. I don't know if that's being picked up. But so it really comes down to, okay, what's corporate policy? In most cases, they've got their own internal tool or something that's been purchased. Everything else is just typically blanketed out in the bigger orgs. So yeah, Microsoft Online Support.cf. I don't know what the top level domain of CF is. But let's just go poke. I mean, to me, that looks obviously nothing like a legitimate Microsoft domain. Oh, look at that. Phishing, malicious phishing, all over the place. 15 days ago, 13 out of 90. So yeah, she's not looking too good. But so they mentioned emails. So let's go take a look at emails. And as we go through here and go back to August 14th, okay, yeah, we got support at Microsoft Online support.cf to Carlos. We open it up. We got confirmation, remote support for Microsoft update. And it's the typical ploy of, hey, we happen to notice that you're missing Microsoft patches. We would like to, being the good-natured Microsoft employees that we are, would just love to be able to sit there and help you get everything all caught up. So let's go ahead and have you go download AmiAdmin. And then reach back out. And of course we take a look and he's run it. Carlos has run it. Otherwise, he would not be able to supply the IP address and the password. Though I thought it was ID. Or maybe I'm just thinking about TeamViewer. Glad to inform you I've successfully accessed your system. Oh, goody. Oh, Carlos. We're going to have to pull you into the black site room, and we're going to have a chat. So he dropped a request for quotation, RFQ196.zip, and they want it to be run as administrator, and of course it's password protected with the industry standard password of infected. On the same day we get from IT. Oh, okay, IT to SOC. Upcoming test in regards to Netflix. Okay, well, that's not really what we're looking for at the moment. So what we're going to do is, this is evidence that Carlos is going to need I swear, just talking to. I swear. No, I'm not going to take him into the back room and beat him with a wrench. No, that would be terrible. But no, if Carlos has got local admin on his box, that's, I think, a pretty good reason to sit there and just get rid of that. Because Carlos is a threat to himself and the organization. And if Carlos keeps his job after this, he's probably gonna just be on the IT team's metaphorical shite list. So, okay, I've got this. So what I'm doing is going through and just grabbing copies. Or making metaphorical copies. And then we're cleaning up the emails, so those are gone. So at this particular point, we can consider Carlos's workstation compromised. If not actual execution of the malware that the quote-unquote Microsoft people tried to dump on the box. But yeah, we would want to sit there and collect this as evidence before we go through and do this stuff. So then effectively, what we're going to be looking for as we go and spin up the machine is we need to find and confirm, one, that there is that request for quotation in the downloads folder, to just make sure that everything is as they exactly say. So what we're going to do is we're going to go straight to Carlos's workstation underneath endpoint security, and we're just going to immediately contain it. because we're not playing around. We'll go ahead and start spinning up the environment as we go back through and verify that the emails have indeed been nuked. And yes, they are gone. So if we take a look in log management for Carlos's, does everything here take place on the 14th? Yes, it does. So let's see, process create, elevated. So local out to this 136, 143, 18, 118. No results match for Talos. Okay, that's fine. So what can Talos tell me about the IP address in question then? Or is that just going to come back to be Amy? Your-server.de. So something in Germany. CBOT. Oh, so it's got a history. It has history. Oh, associated URLs. Okay, apparently AMMYY. And as of June 30th, it looks like that was gone. So is that the legit? Yeah. AMMYY.com. And I'm just elsewhere. Oh, so it's being hosted. Okay. Okay. Hopefully I got the pause in before the sneeze hit. Port 80. The URL in question that they gave him to go through and download was https ammyy.com/en for English. That's downloading the file. Okay, yes, so that looks like that would confirm that it's there. DNS query. Okay, so yeah, I think we're going to have enough here to sit there and basically host him by his own leotard, as it were. We're just going to pop over to that box. Hey, puppy. Okay, so we take a look. So it should be, unless there's an actual Carlos user. All 814. Yeah, it definitely looks like it was run. And we get the request for quotation. So that pops out. So what exactly was in there? Pro forma, invoice, and bank. Okay, so let's see. Can't update. Yeah, I don't really care so much right now. Oh, it is so weird that this is just so tiny. "26 minutes ago." Ooh, boy. Ransomware. Okay. So we're gonna sit there and we're gonna make record of this. Oh yeah, I forgot. Since it's VNC, we gotta use the little clipboard section. And then that would extract out as this. And then we have the virus total results, which was 68 out of 72. So yeah, no wonder why it didn't sit there and run. And given the fact that the system wasn't encrypted, I'm assuming that means that everything kicked off? Or what's the state of the workstation, I guess? Real-time protection's turned off. Oh, let's go take a look at the other portions for the endpoint. Only one for that, and then effectively what? We're going upwards? Yeah. So it looks like you used Edge to download it. And there's only one page of this, yes? Yeah. No terminal history, but if we take a look at browser history, I'm fairly certain we will find Jeez, Carlos, you actually get anything done, or you just sit there and just do a bunch of web surfing? Interesting. So why didn't the browser history pick up going to that AMI site? No terminal history. This thing fired. 8:32. So realistically, we're not going to get a whole heck of a lot that's worth anything from here. We just get confirmation that that stuff was run. No, of course, everything is going to be nice and squished. So it looks like Edge updated. I realize I'm just whipping through that quick. But it looks like a lot of the activity here is just Edge updating. All right, let's search for WPAD. Okay, so they're launching it. Google update. So Chrome was updating a bit before all this kicked off. Looks like some other updates were going on beforehand. Probably Defender, if I'm guessing by the path that's showing up there for file created. So again with Edge, Defender doing its thing. I get another search for WPAD. Or DNS query for WPAD. So we should see a Sentinel-1, Sentinel-1. So apparently that must have been kicking around on the system, which would explain as to why that stopped it, and it also would be why Defender would be turned off, as you would not typically run 2 AVs. So compatibility and then clean. So they must have been running a cleanup before all this stuff was kicked off. Again, with that, compatibility runner, Chrome. So we're at 8:32. All right, they're pulling down the file. There's the AA_v3.exe. There's the running for AMI admin. There's our DNS for rl.ami.com to an IPv6 address. And that reaching out to the 136.243.18.118. More with all the registry stuff. I don't care so much about that currently. All right, then here's at 8:43. Oh, it's 8:30 that supposedly showed up. Oops. But at 8:34, so when did he fire back? He replied back at 8:34. With the passwords, everything else like that. And that IP is different than the one that he gave out. He gave out 18.117.119.218 along with the password. It's an Amazon to show stuff coming in. Which, given the fact I think most of this stuff is hosted on AWS, given the fact that the agents are running on all this stuff. Okay, here we go. And then it's created 835. Which lines up because the response from the fake Microsoft support comes back to Carlos at 840. So they copied it over. And then I'm assuming they just weren't able to actually get the thing to kick off. I mean, if it's installed, would it have? Huh. Yeah, because I don't. Hmm. Okay, well, at the time, it looks like Sentinel-1 was running. It just doesn't look like it's running currently. And so that would explain as to why. So they go through, try to kick it off, and oh, I get blocked. For good reason. It just would have been nice to be able to sit there and like find or see inside of the Sentinel-1 interface. Interesting. And then it cuts off what would be a minute before the reply. But given the fact that we see a bunch of oh, it looks like they tried to remove it. That would be the registry key deletes, I think. Amazon, so yeah, I doubt that's going to be the actual malicious IP. But then that would explain as to why the installer's there, so, and why we don't see it on the system as it is right now. So I guess the other aspect would be too, I mean, does it, when it installs, is there a central repository for those logs from Sentinel-1? Like before it could be uploaded to like the central console? Yeah, she gone. I just know that sometimes you're able to sit there and still pull some of that stuff back, because the uninstaller doesn't do a perfect job. In actually removing everything. Yeah, I would say that that's just goodbye so long. But I mean, we've got I would assume we have enough here just from the sysmon log. The fact that the file itself was put on there. Looks like Sentinel-1 was removed before they would have sent this stuff through. So it might have been more of the aspect of, okay, we have control of the system, we're going to weaken the system, and we're just going to direct Carlos himself to go through and infect himself, as opposed to us being the ones to sit there and pull the trigger. Yep, and there it goes. Wow, it did not take long at all. Yeah, that's not a disk part. So yeah, it runs. Didn't have to run as an administrator. They did enough damage by uninstalling Sentinel-1. And then with Defender being left in a mostly turned off state. Yep, and there their stuff runs through there. Freaking course. And so obviously the call was about AMI admin, not about ransomware, so it was not run on the system. But given the fact that the system is supposed to be quarantined, and it's a VM that effectively has got a save state, so it'll effectively go right back to the way it was afterwards. It's the only reason as to why I'm so nonchalant about this. Would we go through and do something like this in the real world? No. Not unless we had like our own VM to sit there and play with this stuff. But we can see what happens if the stuff was allowed to actually go through and kick off. So we can kill that. Oh yeah, I'll need the details for that. And then the actual malware that was there, that Proforma invoice and bank swift reg PIA, which was just ransomware. It's going to be one of those things I'm going to want to keep around to denote, mostly because of the fact that I'm going to need the MD5 to sit there and denote that aspect. Suppose I could go back and sit there and get the MD5 of the zip file, but this is more what we want. Okay. Let's take ownership and let's work through the process. I think we've poked and prodded at this thing enough to be able to tell a story. Carlos gets an email pretending to be Microsoft Nylon support about, hey, you're missing some patches. We want to help you. Go ahead and download this remote access tool, AMI admin. Carlos goes through, does that, and then supplies the creds to access over AmiAdmin. The attacker supposedly goes through, or the Microsoft Online support goes through and applies patches to the box. And then, oh, well, we had an issue. So I had to leave a request for quotation zip file in your downloads folder, and I need you to execute it with admin privileges, which obviously we know that if that had been done, the box would have been hit with ransomware. Is it malicious? The AmiAdmin? Well, it's a potentially unwanted application. The question is, again, what does Let's Defend's corporate policy say? Is a tool like AmiAdmin supposed to be used? I'm willing to bet not, or maybe the policy has not been expanded to cover such things. It is a legitimate tool that in this case was used. So the question is, how do we go through and drop this? How do we denote this? Because again, it is a tool. It is a legitimate tool that can be used for either good or evil. And I swear something like this has come up before in my time on this platform. Fairly certain. And I think the standing thing there was that it actually has to be full-on malware. But that was, I don't know how long ago. So I think how I'm going to justify the answer I'm going to give. One, yes, the tool is entirely legitimate. In this case, it's just being used for an illegitimate purpose. The fact that Carlos was directed there from someone impersonating Microsoft support. On top of everything else, I'm going to say we're going to load intention into it, and we're just going to say malicious. And it technically would be other because it's remote admin. It would be phishing. And then did we see these in more than one machine? There was one that translated to, what was it, RL? Yeah, right here. Okay, so we've got these. So what we ultimately want to do is it just Carlos's machine that talked? And to confirm, Carlos's machine is 172.16.17.123. So yes, he appears to be the only one that would have made the request for that rl.ami.com. We'll look at the other one, and that's, again, just him. Just poor Carlos. Okay, and we'll switch this back over so we've got everything there. Have you seen IOCs on more than one machine? No. Was it? It was not quarantined, not cleaned. Has that malware? Yes. User execution. Well, if we regard C2 as basically the back end to connect, yeah, it was accessed. I'm going to do containment. Just a little bit ago, I covered basically the story as to how this stuff would go through. Staff and management. Well, this denotes that apparently there needs to be better training, better email filters put in place, better block lists centered around remote access tools on the end user workstations, and then the actual domains themselves. Carlos failed miserably. The L1 that worked this, I don't know, well enough. They identified the email chain to be able to point to. But if they found the email chain, it shouldn't be that much of a stretch to denote that, okay, we see the reply from Carlos to that email chain, denoting that, okay, here's my creds to access via AMI admin. Which maybe the L1 doesn't know, but that might be a instructable moment, as it were. Could not determine whether the relevant tool was downloaded to the system. Yeah, in that particular case, yes, it was, because, again, the email. But then you would also be able to sit there and given the fact that, too, you could have just taken a look at the endpoint underneath processes and you would have denoted, yeah, they downloaded the AA_v3. So yeah, it was definitely dumped on the box. Otherwise, why would this be alerting? Corrective actions, kind of touched on that. Precursors are indicators should be watched for in the future. Any sort of fake Microsoft email? So maybe emails that would be contain like a weighted word list, support Microsoft. Or effectively anything that would denote the words like TeamViewer, AMI, drawing a blank on the other ones that would potentially be used. AnyDesk. I know that's been used before too for similar portions. To sit there and flag. Okay, and then the real fun comes down. We're going to have an email sender. We're going to have an email domain. We're going to have two MD5 hashes. So let's see, let's build out the ransomware that would have been on that. We need the AMI admin. So we've got that. email sender, and then the domain. Add the comments of fake MSFT or Microsoft support. We do have a URL. And then comes the fun. Question is, do we want to include the IP addresses that we are using for like rl.ami? And then do we want to actually include the URL address for the rl.ami? The IP addresses are going to be all over the place. I think we're just going to leave it as such. Codes. Okay. So fake Microsoft support email fish was sent to Carlos. Okay. So fake Microsoft support email fish was sent to Carlos, who was convinced to run AMI admin and supply creds to the attacker. Attacker connected and appears to have removed Sentinel-1 before transferring ransomware via AMI admin, failing to execute it. This resulted in another email to Carlos asking for the ransomware to be extracted and run as admin. Finish the playbook. We're going to mark it as true positive. We're just going to dump the node in there, and we'll see as to how we stack up. Well, we didn't get a bunch of fireworks, so I'm assuming. So they say it should be marked as Trojan. Except there's what, 3? There's more that would mark it as potentially unwanted application or some variation of remote admin. So I don't know if I necessarily go with that. And there's not a write-up. But past that point, apparently everything else is entirely lined up. So we got the scope right. It was only targeted to Carlos for whatever reason. Everything else was right except for, instead of denoting it as other, it should have been marked as Trojan. Which I suppose, at slowing down and taking a closer look, yeah, I mean there's a few, but that's like 5 out of what, 44? Or is it 3 out of 44, not 5? 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's do this. If I just do the word Trojan, it does tell me how many times. Yes, it shows up 5 times. So, okay, threat categories, I guess, would be the other thing to take a look at when you're going through and doing this. And I realize that is probably pretty small, so let me blow it up a bit. So there's 133% is what I typically run when sitting there projecting and capturing with this. Hopefully that looks okay. But so yeah, threat categories, Trojan, past that particular point, then how many actual engines pick it up outside of that? So max secure, which I don't put a whole lot of emphasis in. Semantic, which I put, well, more than max secure, but not as much as others. Webroot, that would be below semantic in my opinion. And zoner, which can't say that I have any idea as to what that would be. So that would be up there with max secure. I mean, honestly, I'm going to be taking a look at the straight-on, full-blown heavy hitters. I'm looking for your next gen, so your CrowdStrike, your Cylance, your Sentinel-1. What's the other one? Cyber Reason. Is that just undetected? Bitdefender, undetected. Sentinel-1, undetected. And then I'd be looking for the bigger players for, your signature based or your non-next gen. So your Bitdefender, your ESET, your Kaspersky. But I suppose I really can't complain. It's 5 points. Oh well. And I guess theoretically, threat categories should be effectively where most of all this stuff is denoted for when asked what type of malware. So the results, that seems to be just about where this stuff is lining up. So there we go. This has been SOC108, malicious remote access software detected, EventID 179, type malware, for August 14th, 2023. Wait, this is, oh no, yep, 0832 local time, or 8:32 a.m. And then again, as a final note, as we are getting near to the end of it, 5 days as I record this, 50% discount code Black Friday. Just missing what? The A and the I? No, the A's and the I. Yeah, I. Since we're missing an A here, missing an A here, and we're missing the I between the R and the D. R&D, baby! Okay. All that being said, I will see everyone in the next video.